Hey peeps, welcome or welcome back to another video. Today I've got another sketchbook chat for you guys, and I wanted to talk about how I stay motivated making my comic. So, um, I wanted to talk about how I stay motivated. I've been making the Alchemist Collective, which is my webcomic, link in the description, for about 7 years now. I'm going to share what's kept me going for such a long time, and hopefully it'll help you. Um, Take this with a grain of salt, of course, and also don't wait for inspiration to get good. I think you should just, really just go for it if you're trying to make a comic, because you'll improve. You'll improve over time. Your first pages they won't be perfect, and that's okay. So getting into it, I have about 6 points that I want to make. So the first point that I want to make is that you have to make time for it. So motivation, and I don't know if I should have called this video how I stay motivated, because motivation it's all well and good, but it's finicky. And that goes for most things, especially when you're trying to start a habit. If comics is something you really want to do, then you need to set time aside to make it. It's fun to imagine your characters doing cool stuff in your brain, but it's only ever gonna stay there if you don't take the steps to put it on paper or canvas, much less upload it if you're sharing it. Over time, you'll build it into your routine. Motivation be damned. I'm not always motivated to line a page. As a matter of fact, I was supposed to line about 3 pages tonight and I didn't do it. But I know that I have to, and I will, at some point after dinner or something. And as long as I can get a little bit finished, I'm happy. As long as you can get a little bit finished, don't ever force yourself to try to do more than you think that you want to. As long as you do the act of opening up the file or sitting down to draw, you can start on something. Like, give yourself 15 minutes to kind of set yourself up and draw a little bit. And if you find yourself in the flow of doing the thing for 15 minutes and you think you can go for more, you should do it. If you decide to make a comic, chances are you're going to be spending a ton of time with the characters or setting. The characters especially, you had better enjoy drawing those characters, because you will be drawing them over and over and over again. You'll be drawing them, thinking about them, and looking at them all the time. If you don't enjoy it, I don't know what to tell you. Something's got to change there. You ought to be doing this for you first, after all. And me, I live and breathe my characters. My OCs, I put them in my soda water. I add them to my stir fry. I wake up, bam, there they are. I'm, normal, I promise. But that's not the point. The point is that you have to figure out a way to make the process as enjoyable for you as possible. And that really goes heavily for the visuals and the stylings of the comic. And your style will develop over time. I don't want to even get into that here, because that's a whole topic that I feel like a lot of artists, especially if they're young or new, are obsessed with. Like, what's my style? And I don't want to cover that here. But you have to make a decision about what your characters are going to look like and the overall look and feel of your comic, so that you don't get tired of it. And even if you do want to switch it up, you're going to evolve, like I said. And I just want to emphasize, like, staying motivated means you will have some rough spots in your process, and that you'll have to work out, but you're going to get better over time. So enjoy making what you're making. That's one of the biggest points. So the next point I want to make is to maintain your why. And this is common advice, but it's so true. I know a lot of people say find your why, and for the most part, it's fine. Like, that advice is just perfectly normal and perfectly fine. But you have to find your guiding light for your comic, and it better not be getting like an arbitrary number, like 500 subs for whatever reason or other. I swear that should be like secondary or even tertiary to your why, your goal. Is it a story you've had for a while, a message you need to share? Are you just making it to enjoy among friends? You figure that out. Write it down if you have to. Put it on a sticky note. I'm making mine because if I don't tell my story, I will simply explode. What do they say about musicals? Um, when you can't sing, when you can't speak your expression, you sing. And when singing isn't enough, you dance. And when dancing isn't enough, you explode. I believe. No, that's not the expression. You don't ever at any point explode. But the point being is that I don't want to explode, okay? I don't want that. And I love my OCs, my characters, my blorbos, if you will, and I love storytelling in general, and my friends also dig it. So read my comic. It's in the description below. It's called The Alchemist Collective. It is a fantasy webcomic, and yeah, enjoy that. But I draw it primarily because, and I've been at this for 7 years, primarily because I don't set up the expectation for any of this to quote unquote make money or become popular. I'm doing it because I really, really am enthused about the story in my head and I just want to draw it, you know? And that's how I maintain my why. That's where I'm at with my comic. And like if people want to support me, that's cool too. I'm not against that, but I'm not trying to make this a thing that like is my bread and butter, because if I try to do that, I'm going to disappoint myself at some point and I'm going to become demotivated. So my expectations for like, I guess, monetizing my comic are not high. I don't expect to make a full-time living off of it. It'd be nice, but I can't make that my goal because the story takes precedent. The characters in the story take precedent, and I really want to get it right before anything else, so to speak. So maintain your why, and keep your vision in sight. And even if even if you do want to make money off your comic, that's not necessarily a problem either. I don't find that to be a no-no or an issue. Well, plenty of people do it. But if you're trying to do it for clout or popularity, I think those are pretty in my opinion, your opinion may be different, but it's not the best reason to make a webcomic just because like you sit down and you're looking around at what's popular and you want to make something that's popular because you want attention. Just do the comic because you like it. I sure hope a lot of people like what they're doing, especially after like 3, 4, 5 some odd years, you know? So the next point I want to make is take in inspiration. Watch things, read manga, read comics, make Pinterest boards, journal, read more books. This in itself is also productivity. Don't discount the time that you're not working on your comic, that you're still putting in the mental work. You want your comic to be the best thing that it can be, presuming that you're trying to make something in the long form in some way. And also, reading more books. Reading is how you become a better storyteller. I've recently been more frequently reading things that I enjoy, that I want to implement more into my own comic, and I want to gain inspiration from that. And the only way to do that is to read books that I really, really like. Even if it's something you don't like, you'll know what to avoid, right? So just take it in and enjoy it. And like, don't ever become embarrassed about what you're inspired by, because that's your personal thing and people can glean that, but ultimately it's going to be your thing. So number 5 is reread your comic. This is so important. Please reread your comic after you've built up some pages over time. You want to make sure that your comic is still on the right track, especially if it's a long form comic. You want to maintain your why, you want to maintain your story, you want to maintain like the growth of the characters and the arcs of the plot and the highs and the lows, the peaks and the valleys. It motivates me to write better, to periodically reread my comic. And I do this about like maybe every 3 months, like once a quarter. I'll go back and go, okay, what is the story thus far? And it isn't that I don't know my own story, it's that I want to keep the trajectory of my story on track. So I want I'm like, okay, I'm here and I know that I have to get here. So what I've drawn so far is this. So people know about this, this, and this, but I still have to introduce these elements, or I have to work up and build up these elements, you know, so on and so forth. So reading your own comic is very, very important to the process. And I think it also can motivate you because you can actively see, and this is what I love about webcomics, you can actively see the progress of an artist's hand. And you can see how you've grown over time. And I think that's something to be really proud of. I'll go back and read Mirror's Omen, which is the first story in my comic, and I'll be like, wow, decisions were made, but they're there, and I'm not gonna like redraw it. God, redrawing is like it's a hot button topic in webcomics because sometimes people do it out of necessity, and it's a natural part of the process that they have built into that process, and it's just know exactly what they're going to do when they redo the art. Maybe they're trying to bring it to print or whatever, or they're trying to just like update the art to make it look a little better in sections as they work on new pages, or if they're in a hiatus, they're just like, oh, I'm just working on these and I'm just updating them. But it's very, very easy if you don't put yourself, if you don't have like if you don't put a limiter on it, you're going to be stuck in redraw hell. And that is the worst place to be because you're going to be like not progressing on any of your story, and you're going to be in this constant loop of just redoing pages over and over and over again. And when you reread, you'll be tempted to be like, oh, I totally missed this detail, or I could have put more here, or worse yet, I've seen some people like get into this loop of adding pages like to their old work and updating the entire like piece of a section of a story with not only updated art but additional pages that maybe they felt like they needed to add. And while I can see that being useful, I don't know if it's useful for staying motivated in terms of progress. But anyway, reread your comic. It'll make you a better writer, it'll keep you on track, and that was my point for that one. I got a little off track on that one, but yeah. So the next one is, and the last one, of course, and I don't really have to explain this one too much, is to take breaks. You do have to take periodic breaks from your work. Not that you have to, but it does help to step away from something that you've been working really hard on. I actually did this recently with my comic. I'm just coming out of this hiatus because I wasn't so certain on the way the story was going, and so I had to take a step back, and there was just one section of the story that I was having a really hard time with, so it behooved me to actually just relax for a bit, even though I didn't want to, even though I felt bad that I wasn't updating as frequently. I needed it. And you're gonna need it too, so allow yourself that time, allow yourself some grace, and don't let it get to you that you're not feeling quote-unquote motivated, because yeah, staying motivated is not the right title for this, but it's too late now. You need to be able to let your brain kind of turn things over in your head, so to speak, I guess. Let it simmer, let it stew, let the ideas like rattle around in there for a little bit, and you'll come out with better work. I say all of this because after making this comic for 7 years, can I be frank with you guys? It was not always the Alchemist Collective, and it was not always the same sort of iteration, I guess. I've had to make a lot of changes, and I've had to omit a lot of detail and add in a lot more of myself into the comic. And the more the comic took shape, the more it became mine. If that makes sense. I know that sounds a little vague, but it's just what I have for you here. That's just like a little bit of my, I guess, voice there for you, like my personal experience is that it wasn't always a comic for me. It was a comic for me and some people I knew, and then now it's mostly primarily for me and my friends still, but I think that I'm much happier with where I'm at in my comic than where I was before, what I was trying to do with it, because it was going to be like sort of this gag-a-day thing, or not gag-a-day, but like sort of more of a gag comic than a story, and eventually I just had this story in my head that kept cropping up and I couldn't avoid it anymore, so that's kind of what happened. It took shape, and I think that that was what helped my motivation, because it's like, well, I started hitting a wall with it eventually, and I'm like, well, how can I change this to make this more of a complete story? So, um, yeah, that's basically it. That's the video. That's what I have for you guys. If you want to read The Alchemist Collective, please click the link below. There's links below for you to read it on my main website or on Comic Fury. It's free to read. I also have a Patreon, but it's not set up yet. I used to have it set up, but I'm restarting it. But please do check it out. I really appreciate any comments and any questions. And if you guys have any thoughts below on how you stay motivated making your comics, let me know below. What keeps you inspired? What keeps the engine running, so to speak? I'm really interested in hearing that. And it doesn't even have to be webcomics. It's whatever project you're working on. Do you write? Do you play video games, or do you make video games? What do you do? What does my audience do? I have to figure that out. I'm not too sure. I would like to get to know you guys a little better, so that's kind of where I'm at right now. So I'll talk to you guys in the meantime, and enjoy the rest of this video. Whatever it is you're doing, maybe you're listening, just enjoy the rest of the video, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Searching for